Thank you so much for joining the Northwest Church YouTube channel. If you'd like to follow along with the message today, you can check out the notes linked in the description below. Let's jump into the message.
Are y'all ready for this? Well, this is going to be a lot gooder in this one than the last one. I know it's not a word. I preached my brains out in the 8:30, and they just kind of sit there and look. They need coffee. They need something. But I'm telling you, this is a better word than their response. I'm just telling you. I don't care if you tell them that. It's okay, all right? But I want you to take your Bibles, if you would, this morning, and let's go to John's Gospel, chapter 11. The Gospel of John, chapter 11, as we continue our series, John's eyewitness account of the life and the ministry of Jesus. Now, we started with the first recorded miracle of Jesus, which was what? Jesus turning water into wine. Last week, we looked at Jesus healing the nobleman's son. It was a story of faith. We talked about a beginning faith. We talked about a persistent faith. And in the end, we talked about an obedient faith. Both miracles took place in the remote village of Canaan. Today, our story is a story of faith as well. And we're going to talk about Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead. The Gospels tell us that Jesus raised others from the dead. You have Jairus' daughter and a widow's son. All of them, including Lazarus, were raised, but eventually died again. However, in the other three Gospels, there is no account. There is no mention of the raising of Lazarus. Lazarus' story stands out because John used it not only as a sign of the power of Christ, but it is a picture of his soon coming resurrection. So it's a foreshadowing of the resurrection of Jesus Christ. That is the essence of chapter 11. Not only did it demonstrate the power of God, the miraculous power of God, but it was a foreshadowing. It was like a preview of what was soon to take place. The miracle, by the way, it was a turning point. And what I mean by that, it forced the Jews to take action against Jesus. Because soon after this, what took place was, within days, Jesus would go to the cross. However, we will see Jesus relating to different people under real stress and real grief in this particular story. Now, the main characters, I know there's lots of people. You have the disciples, you have all of the religious people that are involved in this story. But the main characters are obviously Jesus, and then you have Lazarus. He's there. He's dead, but he's there. We have Lazarus, and then we have his two sisters who are Mary and Martha. By the way, this was the same Mary who poured perfume on the feet of Jesus and then wiped his feet with her hair. And Jesus was close to Lazarus. I want you to take note of that. He was close to Lazarus, and he was close to his family. If you go back and look at this, he spent a lot of time in their home. So he was close. These were close friends of his. They lived in Bethany, which is a suburb of Jerusalem, which is about 2 miles away. And if you want to take a little side note here, the name Lazarus literally means God is my help. How many of you know if you're dead, you might need some help? Lazarus, it means God is my help. So the story goes, Lazarus gets sick. His sisters, they send word for Jesus, who was out doing ministry, said, your friend Lazarus is very sick. He's about to die. So we need you to hurry up and show up and do something about this. But by the time Jesus had reached their home, Lazarus was dead and had been buried for 4 days. He was dead and was buried for 4 days by the time Jesus got there. Well, as you can imagine, the two sisters were devastated by the death of their brother. John chapter 11, verse 19 records, and many of the people had come to console Martha and Mary in their loss. Again, the essence of this story is foreshadowing the resurrection of Christ, but within that, it is a story of faith. And that's what I want to look at today. It's literally the story within the story, but I don't want you to miss the overarching theme of this. But again, it's a foreshadowing the resurrection of Christ. But I want us to get into the weeds today, and we're going to look at it from the angle of faith. Are y'all ready for this? Come on, this is going to be a good word today. Number one, first up, we're going to see a disappointed faith. A disappointed faith. John chapter 11, verse 20 and verse 21 says, when Martha got word that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him. Again, they sent for him. He's a little late, but he shows up. Mary stayed in the house. So she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed in the house. Verse 21, Martha said to Jesus, Lord, that's important, if only. Now, I want you to underline those two words, if only. I want you to circle those words. I want you to highlight those words. It's very important. If only you had been here, my brother would not have died. Lord, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died. So Martha believed in Jesus, because when Jesus did show up, even though he was late, she addresses him as Lord. So as Lord, she was saying, I acknowledge your authority, and I recognize and acknowledge your deity. Watch this. In the next verse, she verbalized her faith by saying, even now, God would give you whatever you would ask. Again, she's talking to Jesus. She believed that Jesus could have healed her brother, but watch this. She was disappointed that he didn't. So her faith was not lacking in, did Jesus have the power? Did he have the capacity? Did he have the authority to heal her brother? She was just simply saying, Lord, you are too late. So she was disappointed, not because Christ couldn't, but because he didn't. Jesus did not come immediately when he was called. Therefore, Lazarus, who was sick, now has died. So it begs the question, why did Jesus not show up sooner? After all, this is a friend of Jesus. You think he would have some urgency. He's out doing ministry. You would think he would say, let me take a pause. I will be back. Tell the people I've got a very important thing I need to do, because this is his friend. These people are friends of his. How could Jesus not heal Lazarus, whom he loved, who was a friend of the family? Why did he let him die? Martha's disappointing faith could also be interpreted as a complaining faith. She was not totally entrusting the situation into the Lord's hand. Now watch this. She acknowledges him as Lord, as the ultimate authority, acknowledges his deity, but watch this. She wasn't convinced what had happened was for the best. In essence, she was saying, Lord, you don't know what is best. If only, I want to go back to those two words. Watch this. If only you had been here. Lord, if only you would have acted sooner. Lord, if only you would have done what is best, then our brother would not be dead. He would be alive. If only you would have got here. If only you would have put this as a higher priority in your life. If only, Lord, you would have done something sooner, our brother would not be dead. How many of you have been there? You knew God could, but you were disappointed he didn't. Again, it's not a lack of faith in, Lord, I know you can, but now the question is, will you? This is going to get good. Our disappointing faith, if we're not careful, turns into a complaining faith. We start saying things like, Lord, if only you would have been here sooner. How many of you ever said this? Lord, when I needed you the most, you did not show up. It's okay to raise your hand right there. Lord, we feel that way because God doesn't always answer our prayers how, when, and where we think he should. And if we're not careful, we become disappointed, not that he couldn't, but because he didn't intervene in our situation. If only you would have been here, my marriage, if only you would have been here a little sooner, I would still be married. If only you would have saved my job, I would have a better future for my family. If only you would have prevented my kids from losing their dad. If only, and that list could just keep going and going and on. in our disappointment that we fail totally to trust not only His will, but His way. Lord, not only your will, but your way. And sometimes we get confused there and our faith becomes disappointed when God doesn't do what we want Him to do when we think He needs to do it. It's not that we don't trust that He can, we just don't understand why sometimes He won't. Oh, this is good. Author C.S. Lewis said, we're not necessarily doubting that God will do the best for us. We're simply wondering how painful the best will turn out to be. It's in the space between our pain and His promise that we become disappointed and we begin to complain about what isn't and what won't ever be. And just maybe what isn't and won't ever be is in your best interest, but from your point of view and from where you're sitting, from your viewpoint, you don't understand that. And when you don't understand it, you begin to doubt. And if you're not careful, doubting can turn to complaining, like, Lord, if you would have been here. Lord, if only you loved me. If only you cared about me. Lord, if only you would have done something. If only you would have spoken a word. If only you would have honored your word. If only you would have believed my faith, I would not be here today. So our doubting turns to complaining when we don't understand His way. Our trust, His timing. Don't allow your Lazarus time. That's deep. Did y'all get that? Don't allow your Lazarus time from the time it's dead to the time you're waiting for it to come back to life. Are y'all following me this morning? Don't allow it to be wasted time. The waiting time, not wasted time. Don't waste it with disappointing and complaining faith. Trust His will. Trust His way. And trust His timing. Wait, watch this, in faith that God knows better than you. That God knows what's best. That His way, His will, His timing is always better than ours. God's decision is best and His timing is right. Now, let me help you. It's easy to have faith when God does it your way. It just doesn't take a lot of faith when you pray and God does it your way. You don't need faith for that. You saw it, you prayed, you saw it, boom, you're like, okay, I'm ready to go on Christian television. I'm going to go out. I'm going to do a podcast now. And I'm going to tell everybody about how to pray this great prayer of faith because you prayed and God did it your way. Real faith comes in when God doesn't do it your way. He doesn't do it in your timing. That's where you have to trust and wait on Him. That's easy to preach and hard to live. That's just one of those things. You just wait till next weekend. Oh, I'm not going to say anything. I'm done. I got to move on. Number 2, we move from a disappointed faith to a doubting faith. What's you see the transgression? So it's disappointment, it's complaining, and then I would have put complaining as a faith, but we can only have 3 for it to be anointed. I didn't want to do 4. So it's a doubting faith. John chapter 11, verse 23 says, Jesus told her, watch this is interesting, said, your bro, he gonna rise again. Yes, Martha said, he will rise, watch this, when everyone else rises at the last day. Now, at face value, what Jesus said did little to console Martha, for she already knew Lazarus would rise again at the resurrection. Not today. This is interesting. Her faith, she had enough faith to believe that one day Lazarus was going to be raised from the dead when the resurrection took place, the resurrection of the dead. She knew that was going to happen. No doubt. She believed that he was going to be raised from the dead then, but not now. Are y'all catching this? Her response of acknowledgement to Jesus in the original language, I want you to listen to this, implies an appreciation or an understanding. That's what it implies. Sort of like what we say today. We say, I see what you're saying, or I see what you mean. I see, meaning I understand. And that's what, in essence, in the original language, that's what she was saying. Jesus, I see what you're saying. I understand. I see what you mean, that he is going to rise from the dead at the resurrection. Martha was not doubting her brother would rise later. She was doubting he would rise now. But Jesus is like saying, no, you don't. No, it's like when I tell Christy, I understand. She's like, no, you don't. Same situation. But Jesus was not saying Lazarus would rise at the resurrection. He was saying, your brother is going to rise today. I'm not talking about tomorrow, but I'm talking about today. Think about this. Lazarus was not only dead, he'd been dead for 4 days. And when you consider the climate of Philistine, where they was, Philistine, where they were, watch this, Palestine rather. When you look at that, his body would have already been in decay. I don't want to gross you out, but how could, now that I already have, but how could Mary and Martha ever think Jesus was talking about raising him today? It was understood. He's dead. His flesh has already begun the decaying process. We can clearly see their doubting faith. It's understandable. Who wouldn't in that situation? But in their faith, they thought their prayers were denied. But Jesus is saying, your prayers have not been denied. They've only been delayed. How often do we doubt? How often do we doubt? And doubt creeps in when God answers our prayers. When our prayers are delayed, how often does doubt creep in? When God doesn't answer according to our timetable. We start to doubt God's word. We start to doubt if God really said that. If God really meant that. Like, yes, Lord, I know he's going to rise later, but we're doubting that you're going to do something today. I know, Lord, one day I'm going to have a glorified body and I'm going to be healed. I know that later, but what about today? Delay does not always mean denied. Now, if you fly, God help your soul, if you're like me. So, because I'm working on it, my control issues. But I have to look at all the screens. I check my app multiple times because they change gates on you, change terminals on you. They just do weird things to you just to mess with you. They do it on purpose. But one of the things I hate to see is when you see the screen and you find your flight number and all that, and it says delayed. That's when I go into wacko moment. I start pacing. I call Melody, like, Melody, what? Get me on another. I got to get out of here. Don't this airline know how important I am? Don't they know where I'm going and how important it is when I get there? Do they not understand that my timetable, why would they delay this flight? What it really means, that plane's not leaving when I want it to leave. It's not going to get me where I want to be when I want to be there. They are messing up my schedule. How many of you know what I'm talking about? That carries over into our relationship with God. God, you are not on my schedule. God, do you not know how important I am? Lord, that my prayers are more important than everyone. Do you not know, Lord, that I don't have time for this delay in my life? I got things I need to be doing. You see that word, I. Lord, I don't have time for this. And if we're not careful, our delay can turn into doubt. Now you're doubting if God will ever answer your prayer and get you when and where you need to be. Here's a spoiler alert. Are y'all ready for this? God is not on your timetable. God is not on your timetable. Meaning God doesn't have to answer you when you think He should answer you. So though we experience delays and doubt, we can be sure that His time is always the best time. That His time is always the best time. Now watch this. He will help you, but sometimes it will be different than what you expect. He will answer, but maybe it will be not the answer that you were expecting. But we must trust him and trust his dependability. James chapter 1 verse 8 says, if you don't know what you're doing, that would be me, pray to the Father. Why? Because he loves to help. You'll get his help and won't be condescending when you ask for it. What's this? Ask boldly, believingly, without a second thought. Watch this. People who worry their prayers. Oh, don't act spiritual. People who worry their prayers are like wind-whipped waves. So you ever been out on the boat and you see the waves? They're up and they're down. And if you're in a small boat, then you're at the mercy a lot of those waves. Worry your prayers. Watch this. Meaning that when I pray and I see God doing something, then my faith gets built up and I feel good and I start to praise Jesus. Right? I'm on social media, selfie, me and Jesus hanging out, all that. But then when it doesn't go our way, that wave takes us the opposite direction, right? And then what are we doing? We're like, it's poor me, myself, it's our little pity party that we have going on, right? Are you guys following me? Look right here, okay? And it's just this little pity party thing that just keeps going and going and going. And this is what happens when we worry our prayers. We're literally like someone in a small boat in the ocean, and we're at the mercy of the waves of our circumstances. So we're literally going in the direction of whatever direction our circumstances happen to be going at that time. Worry their prayers. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. You pray, then you're like, okay, Lord, I'm believing. Lord, where are you? Lord, it's almost time. What are you doing, Lord? This is getting desperate. Worry our prayers. Don't you think, watch this, the scripture finishes with, don't think you're going to get anything from the master that way, adrift at sea, keeping all your options open. It's either me or it's nobody. You follow me? Number 3, a declaring faith. John chapter 11, begin reading in verse 25. Jesus said to her, watch this, I am the resurrection of life and the life. I am the resurrection. Watch this. He makes it say, the resurrection. I am the life. The one who believes in me will live even though they die. Whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe this? Yes, she replied. I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, who is come into the world. Now, Martha spoke of the resurrection as a truth which she believed. Watch this. And as an event in far-off future, so remote from the present life that it was powerless to comfort her now. Watch this. She expressed faith in a future resurrection, but thought that brings little comfort to my current situation. He will rise later, but he's still dead now. So the sorrow and the grief that I'm going through, yes, I do, Lord, believe that one day you're going to raise him from the dead, but that's not helping me now. Y'all getting this? Jesus responds, I am the resurrection. I am the life, meaning me and no one else. I am. That's translated in the original language as me and no one else. The resurrection is not an event that is to come. That's not what Jesus is saying, but it's who I am. I am the resurrection. I am the life. This is not an event that's going to happen. This is me that is about to happen. Watch this. I am the resurrection, a present life, and not simply a future life on the last day. Meaning the power that you're going to see later is the power that you're going to see today. And not only will it give you joy in the future, but it can bring comfort to you today, because the same power that later is going to raise me from the dead is the same power that I'm about to exercise and that's going to raise Lazarus, your brother, from the death today. in the same sense in which He's declared Himself to be the water and the bread of life, supplying Himself every need of spiritual thirst and hunger. He declares Himself to be the resurrection. He's declaring to all of humanity, He is the power that will be raised on the last day, could raise Lazarus on this day. Jesus has the power over life and death because He is the creator of all life. That's the reason I am pro-life. That is not a political perspective or a statement. It is a biblical statement. I am pro-life because Jesus is the creator of life. He is, watch this, it's His life and it's His choice. He who is life can surely restore life. He who is life can surely restore life. I don't have the power to determine life and death. Only Jesus does. And He has the power to restore your broken life. Your marriage may be dead, but it's not too late for God to restore it. Your kids may not be saved, but it's not too late for God to restore them. So here's what I want you to do today. I want you to gather all of your disappointments and gather your doubts and your desperation, your devastations, and even all the dirt in your life. And I want you to bring, even if it's dead, I want you to bring it all to the Lord, who is the resurrection, who is these life. You bring it to Him and say, Lord, I can't do anything about it. It's dead. It's in the decay process. And when I look at it, it's never going to live again. So I'm bringing it to You. You are the resurrection and You are the life. Bring it to Him. Turn it over to Him and give it to Him. He determines life and death. He determines what lives and what dies in your life. Some things are dead, they need to stay dead. That's free. 8:30 crowd didn't get that. Some things in your life dead, you're trying to raise from the dead. Lord, like, no, you leave that dead. It stinks. Yeah, it stinks. It's going to stink some more, but leave it there. There's some things that are dead that just need to stay dead. But there's some things that are dead and decaying that you've given up on. And you thought, well, maybe the Lord didn't mean that. May I misunderstood. May I miss the interpretation. The Lord said, no. It's delayed. It's not denied. Now watch this. Whether it's delayed, denied, you have to have the same faith. You just have to trust Him, not the outcome. We've talked about this. Not the outcome. I trust Him. Let me tell you, that's a tough place to get. But it's a place of strength. And it's a place of great joy and comfort when you get to the place that you're no longer seeking the outcome, but you're seeking the one who has controlled the outcome. When you start saying things like, Lord, regardless of the outcome, I trust You. That's the essence of real faith. Because your faith is not in what you're praying for. It is the one who you're praying to. It's good preaching. What is dead can live again. It's time to declare your faith. His promise is and will always be greater than your problem. Stop looking for hope and happiness in a relationship, likes on social media, in money, a job, your horoscope, and even fortune cookies. Put your hope and trust in Jesus, who is the resurrection and the life. John 10:10 says, a thief is only there to steal and to kill and to destroy. I came so that you can have real and eternal life. Watch this. More and better life than you ever dreamed of. Some of you need to declare in your faith, it is a new day in my life. I'm declaring what is dead is alive. What is in decay will live again. Just as Jesus called Lazarus out of his grave, He is calling you out of your delays, out of doubts, disappointments, and even your discouragement and maybe even depression today. The devil thought you were in decay. He had given you up for dead. Declare, I am still here. It's one of my favorite prayers to pray. I am still here. Come on, guys. You got to get what I'm preaching today. I am still here. Meaning you took your shot. You took your best shot, but I'm still here. The mere fact that I'm still got my hands in the air and I'm praising and I'm singing, the mere fact that I'm still praying today, I may have doubts. Listen, I may be disappointed that God didn't answer this away, but I want you to know, devil, I am still here. I'm still praying, meaning I still believe in the one who has the answers to life and death. My hope is not in the outcome, but my hope is in the one who controls the outcome. That's the essence of true faith today. Declare, listen, God, this is an old saying, but it's so good. You're not dead and God is not done. If you're not dead, God's not done. And if you read the story of Lazarus, even if you're dead, God may not be done. Come on, somebody. I'm done. John 11:44, Jesus said, can y'all feel this today? He said, take off the grave clothes and let him go. Only dead people wear grave clothes. There's a possibility exists that some of you are alive, but you're still wearing grave clothes. There's a possibility that y'all still act like you're still behaving as if you're dead. Christ came to set you free, for you to live a life of freedom, for your marriage, for your finances, for your all of these things. You're walking around singing, He set me free in your grave clothes. Get a visual of that. My chains are gone. I'm still in grave clothes, but my chains are gone. He set me free. Maybe it's time to take off our grave clothes and believe that He is the resurrection. He said, I am, me and nobody else. I am the resurrection. He wasn't referring to an event. He was referring to Himself. That's powerful. He said, I am the resurrection, and I'm not a life, but I am the life. Would you bow your heads this morning, please?
Thank you so much today for tuning in and checking out the message. We hope you were encouraged. And today, if you'd like to make a decision to become a Christ follower, please contact us. You can do that by simply clicking the link in the description below. And today, if you'd like more information about Northwest Church, or you would like to plan a visit to come visit us in person, you can simply do that by going to northwestchurch.tv. We'd love to meet you. We'd love to connect with you.